Welcome in to Minnesota Vikings Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Will Scott. And we got a fun show planned for y'all today. We're going to talk about some trade ideas and some trade rumors between the Miami Dolphins and the Vikings following the hire of former Dolphins head coach Bryon Flores to be the new defensive coordinator in Minnesota, as we welcome in Patrick Siepman, one of the hosts here on Vikings Now. And Sieps, I was with you yesterday when this hire went down, and you were fired up, and for good reason.
I was fired up because this is going to completely turn the Vikings defense on your head. It's going to go from a lackluster, never really blitzing type of defense to a full blitz all the time type of mentality with Bryon Flores. And I'm excited. And Will, the Dolphins trade rumors with the Minnesota Vikings, they're heating up,
Dolphins Twitter was talking. Vikes Twitter was talking. This is something that is very real.
It's heating
some
up.
Trade rumors between the two teams because you have some guys in Miami that maybe underperformed last year. They did perform well under Flo, though.
Yes.
And Vikings fans, we were calling Flo. We were calling Bryon Flores Flo in Miami, so y'all get used to
we'll get used
that.
to that.
But it's going to be interesting to see what goes down here in the offseason. And you got to think that Bryon Flores is a pretty big upgrade over Donatell, Patrick Siepman.
Can't get any worse than this, Will. I mean, if you look at these numbers, you would probably say this is a team who's drafting top 5 in the NFL draft. No, this was a team that won 13 games and won their division, being ranked almost last or dead last in about every defensive category. Will, I'm hoping Flo can turn it around in Minnesota.
And even with this, the Vikes had a really good year. I get it. You lose in the first round of the playoffs, but you finish with, 13 wins? I mean, I don't really understand. That just tells you a lot about how the offense did. But the defense was really disappointing. Even with some talent on that defense. So Bryon Flores, one of the really good defensive minds in the National Football League, I think is going to turn that defense around. I'm confident. Are you confident that Bryon Flores can't fix the Vikings defense? Scale it 1 to 10 down in the comments section. So like I said, we're going to talk about some trade ideas between the Vikes and the Fans on today's show. And we begin with Xavien Howard maybe going to Minnesota. Now, X has been one of the better corners in the league for the last half decade or so, but he had a down year this past season in Miami. And it appears he's pretty fired up about Flores getting hired in Minnesota, his former head coach. Here's what he commented on the official Vikes post. Vikes saying they've named Flo the defensive coordinator, and the next is, I don't think that's saying go Canes. I think that's saying he's pretty happy about that hire. And as I mentioned, Seeps, it was just a down year for X. He didn't play up to the level that I think we were expecting him to.
Down year, and, that's going to happen to guys in the league. But, it could be if he gets back with a guy like Bryon Flores, could we see him get back to that 2021 stats that he was going off? And he had a great year for the Miami Dolphins with 10 interceptions. Maybe it was your boy Josh Boyer. Maybe he wasn't getting the most out of a guy like Xavien.
I think the only guy worse than Josh Boyer in the league this year was Ed Donatell.
That's a good argument.
Which is saying something, and I think will tell Vikings fans how bad former Dolphins DC Josh Boyer was. We take a look here at the depth chart, and I think the Vikings are going to be pretty aggressive going out and maybe getting a really good corner this offseason.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the one guy here that I want to bring back is Duke Shelley. Patrick Peterson's most likely going to be gone, but Duke Shelley, aggressive corner in the Flores system, I think he could be great. But, Will, one thing that I think is going to, maybe restrict the trade is going to be this contract.
This contract is a problem. I mean, just quite frankly. Now, he signed a 5-year, $90 million extension with Miami this past offseason. And he's owed $1.65 million this year, this upcoming season. I will say, though, his cap hit is about $10 million, so that's something to keep in mind. But then he's owed over $15 million in 2024, nearly $14 million in 2025, over $15 million again in 2026 before he's a free agent in 2027 when he's like 35 years old. So, I mean, he's going to be a little bit older, maybe out of his prime when he's owed a lot of money. Taking a look, though, at his coverage stats, in 2021, he was still a really good player, one of the best corners, if not the best corner, in the National Football League. So that's what makes the numbers this year surprising. But again, he did this under Bryon Flores. And you might say, oh, Will, but Josh Boyer was the defensive coordinator in 2021. News for you, Bryon Flores was the one calling plays defensively second half of the season. He was the one responsible for the Dolphins' success on defense, not Josh Boyer. So that's worth noting as we tell you about today's show sponsor, Fume. Our sponsor, Fume, is on a mission to accelerate humanity's breakup from the bad habits that consume far too many of us. Fume is a natural diffusive device that uses plants and behavioral science to help you trade out your negative habit for a positive one. I didn't expect much out of Fume, to be honest, when I got it, but the minty sensation is really powerful and really hits the back of the throat. It comes with 3 unique flavors for you to enjoy: maple pepper, crisp mint, and white cranberry. Crisp mint is my favorite. It's not a vape. It's a non-electric device designed to transform your negative habits. Here's what it looks like right there. The easiest way to stop a bad habit is to switch to a positive one, and Fume is designed perfectly. Do just that. So head to tryfume.com/chatsports. Use code chatsports to save $10 off when you get the Journey Pack today. That's tryfum.com/chatsports. Use code chatsports to save an additional 10% off your order today. As we go to trade idea number 2, and we're hearing some buzz about Dalvin Cook, Seeps.
This is the one that I think is honestly most likely here. I mean, we'll get into his cap numbers here in a second, but the Dolphins, they're in need for a running back.
Yeah.
All 4 of the running backs are free agents this year, and I think this could be a situation. Dalvin Cook has a chance to return home to Miami, and you mentioned it, James Cook, his brother, wanted to get drafted there. They have a ton of Miami ties. But this might be something that just makes too much sense for both sides.
I think this does make a lot of sense for both sides because the Vikings would save a lot of money getting rid of him. Now, if they cut him, they'd save nearly $8 million before June 1st and then $11 million post-June 1st. But if the Dolphins get wind they're going to cut him and they want him, then maybe they'll make a trade for him ahead of time because they really need a running back. Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson Jr., who are their top 2 backs. Jeff Wilson was RB2 after he got traded from San Francisco. The run game, even with those 2 guys, was not very good. They ranked 26th in the league in rushing offense. And then Salvon Ahmed, Myles Gaskin are restricted free agents. So their top 2 guys unrestricted, bottom 2 guys restricted free agents. Dalvin Cook, would I think at least, would be a good fit in that Miami backfield in Mike McDaniel's offense. Mike McDaniel, one of the best offensive minds, young offensive minds in football. And Dalvin Cook coming off a Pro Bowl season with 8 touchdowns. Seeps, you drew this first trade idea up. You think a 3rd-round pick is enough to get Cook here?
I mean, personally, I know a lot of Vikings fans honestly might get upset with this. Oh, a 3rd-round pick for Dalvin Cook. You gotta understand, this is he's leaving his prime right now. Honestly, if you could get a 3rd-round pick for Dalvin Cook, I say you take that deal instantly. But this is the one Will drew up. And I like this a lot, Will. Xavien Howard straight up for Dalvin Cook.
The words of Drake. Sounds like a fair trade to me.
It does.
Vikings need a corner. Dolphins need a running back. You got 2 guys that I think might be leaving their prime, might be really in need of a fresh start.
Fresh start, exactly.
We want to hear from y'all down in the comment section. What trade do you prefer for the Vikes? Type 1 for trade number 1 or type 2 for trade number 2? Down in the comment section. Go down, let us know what you think. And I'll tell you one thing. Byron Jones is not going to be back with the Dolphins next year. He comes in for our 3rd trade idea here. So I'll fill Vikings fans in on the Byron Jones situation. So Byron Jones had cleanup surgery on his ankle almost a year ago, last March, and he was expected to be back by training camp. Training camp rolls around, he's placed on the PUP list. Then he was expected to be ready by the Dolphins' first preseason game. He wasn't. Then he was expected to be ready by the regular season. He wasn't. Then week 5, he wasn't. Then after the bye week, he wasn't. Then maybe the playoffs. He wasn't. He did not play at all this year. And I'll tell you that not just Dolphins fans, but the Miami front office, I think the team, the ownership, everybody is really fed up with Byron Jones. They feel like he quit on the Dolphins this year, and he is not going to be back. Now, here's what he did in 2021. He had nearly 50 tackles, 10 pass breakups, 655 receiving yards allowed, a 65.0 PFF grade. Kind of disappointing after you give him the big contract when he came over from Dallas. Now, I think he's going to get cut. I don't know how realistic a trade is, but if the Vikes wanted to trade for Byron Jones, maybe reunite him with Brian Flores, a 6th-round pick could get it done. Maybe even a 7th-round pick, or maybe even a slice of pizza from the big mall up there in Minnesota. I don't know. It's just I'm just saying this from the Dolphins' perspective. It's not going to take much to get a trade done there. Now, would you trade for Byron Jones? Type T for trade, P for pass down in the comment section. The ankle is a question mark, right? How healthy is he going to be? He didn't play at all this year. Seeps, which trade idea? Tell me this. Two things.
Yeah.
Which one is the most realistic, and which one is your personal favorite?
My personal favorite is number one, obviously Xavien Howard coming to Minnesota. But most realistic, I think it's Dalvin Cook heading to Miami.
Yeah, I
it
do.
makes too much sense on both sides. What
He's
about
from
you?
Miami. Yeah, I would say my personal favorite is the Dalvin for X swap.
Yeah.
I think that makes a lot of sense for both sides. I don't think the Howard contract makes that realistic. When you're talking about most likely to happen, probably Dalvin Cook to Miami for a third or fourth round pick. I don't know if the Dolphins would give up a third for him. They might prefer to draft a running back in the second or third round. This is a loaded running back class, by the way. And then you have a couple of really good free agent running backs, Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley. So we'll see what they opt to do. But I would not be shocked if Dalvin Cook is a Dolphin next year.
And I wonder if McDaniel, if he could just be thinking, our run game wasn't too good last year. If I could just, give a third-round pick for a guy like Dalvin Cook, could it just completely flip it on its head? And you got Dalvin Cook, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, really support Tua. I think Dalvin Cook's going to be a Dolphin next season.
Okay.
Maybe I'm talking
Bold
myself
prediction.
into it right now, but definitely a chance.
And Byron Jones maybe ends up on the Vikings, I would say, after he gets cut
most likely.
by the Dolphins.